I'm Bryan David. I'm the program director for Go Virginia Region 3. This is another installment in our video series about Go Virginia Region 3, and in particular focusing on certain aspects of why we think our region is being successful in its mission of creating high-paying jobs and greater economic development for the region. I'm joined today by three principals, we'll characterize it that way, with a brand new initiative that has come out of the starting gates here in the last several months, but its genesis was several years in the making. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then once that, we'll go through a series of questions that they'll all have an opportunity to answer and share more about what we think is a really good initiative that at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is about helping somebody realize an idea that then can translate into their creation of their job, their own job. So it's certainly there's a higher moral purpose to what these folks are doing. So with that, I'm going to start on my top screen. Liz Povar, if you'd introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Thank you, Bryan. I'm Liz Povar, and I am the principal for the RiverLink Group. We are contracted with Go Virginia Region 3 to provide some advisory services and support for their entrepreneurial strategy. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. I'll work down. Sheri.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheri McGuire. I'm here at Longwood serving as the Associate VP for Community and Economic Development, and on this project with Lauren and team for the strategy for Go Virginia Region 3.
All right, and Sheri was one of the heavy lifters with this, and then I'll pitch it to Lauren, who was the other partner in lifting this project up.
Hi, my name is Lauren Mathena. I work with Mid-Atlantic Broadband as their Director of Economic Development and Community Engagement. And so one of the big things I spend really the majority of my time on these days is working with our nonprofit, the SOVA Innovation Hub. We are working with Microsoft TechSpark to launch digital skills programs, as well as entrepreneurship training in partnership with Longwood and Go Virginia Region 3.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm going to pick the first question because it's kind of a retrospective question to Liz. This is a strategy, and the formal title is the Region 3 Entrepreneurship and Innovation Implementation Project. I wanted to make sure I got that right. But it started back several years ago with Region 3's identification of a priority around its priority around entrepreneurship. This priority then translated into a grant, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then move into what will be the future objectives and goals of the grant. So with that, Liz, how did this come to pass? What started this? Was it the Big Bang theory? Was it a piece of sand like an oyster? I don't know. Share with us, please.
So those are both really good analogies, and you're great at storytelling, Bryan. Big Bang is fair, and an oyster that creates a cultured pearl is fair. I think it starts really like a bang in that the process involves a lot of people and a lot of thoughts and ideas about, number one, whether or not an entrepreneurship strategy is needed in Go Virginia Region 3, and if so, what does it look like? So to give credit where credit is due, the State Go Virginia Board prioritized entrepreneurship and innovation as a key pillar of the way they wanted to see some of their funding used. To help each of the 9 regions in the state board hired Techonomy to produce a baseline map of what's already in your footprint, what is in it. And using that baseline map, there were convenings done by Nancy Poole and a representative of the Go Virginia State Board staff to talk to stakeholders in Go Virginia Region 3 about the report's results and about where they thought emphasis should be from the council in terms of investing some of the dollars that it has to spend. As a result, the council issued an RFP. They sought partners who would create a strategy for the entrepreneurship and innovation function. Ultimately, that we received several, 5 or 6 responses to that RFP, and ultimately the council chose to contract with the Longwood Office of Community and Economic Development and the Mid-Atlantic Broadband, SOVA Innovation Hub, to create a strategy. And that strategy was developed collaboratively. It covers all 15 localities in Go Virginia Region 3. And the fundamental thing about the strategy that I think council appreciates is that it respects and reflects the variations of capabilities across the region. Region 3 is home to some very innovative entrepreneurial and innovation partners in work. It's also home to areas where there's less capability. So the strategy that was developed reflects an ability to serve both of those kinds of stakeholders. That's kind of the background of it. I think the pearl, to go back to your comment about the oyster, the pearl in this will be the projects that are produced from it, and hopefully years to come, the really good opportunity for new boardrooms in Region 3's backyard to be created.
Good, good. Well, thank you, Liz. And I won't go to the part about the oyster in the sand is an irritant to the oyster. So I don't want to say that the 2 women that I'm about to engage are the irritants, but I think they're the coaches and the mentors and really the instigators. That's probably a better way of characterizing it. This strategy, Region 3 put together, Longwood University and Mid-Atlantic and the SOVA Innovation Hub actually put that idea to paper. It's a strategy and it's on our website, which you can see. Then what Region 3, as Liz said, went on the street, so to speak, to see who could implement that strategy. And obviously there's a connection between who helped Region 3 develop the strategy and who's now implementing it. And so Lauren or Liz, I'll probably pitch it to Liz, Lauren first. Tell us more about the strategy and what are the goals, kind of the overarching themes that you all are trying to set forth for the areas for diverse as Region 3.
Lauren, you're muted.
Don't you love Zoom?
Right. There she is. Okay.
Let's cut that part out.
Okay.
So as Liz said, we did look across Region 3 as locality by locality to map the assets. We evaluated the existing businesses as well as the entrepreneurial support organizations and relationships both across the region and with different stakeholders outside of the region that are available statewide. And so one of the goals was then to fill gaps that we found. There are several localities within Region 3 that have already embarked upon ecosystem building and kind of investing in their entrepreneurship development. And there's some localities that are a little bit just haven't quite started yet. And so that is really our first goal, was to help bring resources where there weren't already really active efforts to build the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And then a goal is to do that across the board so that all people have access, whether it's a youth training program or a community training program, whether it was geography or other demographics or age or just background in general. We wanted to make programs that would help anyone access entrepreneurship as a path towards wealth. And so ultimately that does lead to job creation.
Good. And it gets back to somebody for the employment. The term ecosystem and entrepreneur ecosystem you use, it's embedded throughout all of the strategy and thing. All right, Sheri, this is a test. Need for you, give us an idea of what define an ecosystem. What is an entrepreneur ecosystem?
Sure. It's a network of support. I think that's the simplest definition that we can give to it. You think about a rainforest ecosystem and all the elements that support the life develops within that. And I think you can apply that same theory to entrepreneurship. And throughout the planning process, we were very intentional in looking at entrepreneurship as not just the scalable startup, but everything in between, culture that all of these types of businesses support that is attractive to new businesses coming in, is attractive to intellectual capital, it's attractive to new people moving to the area to want to live in Southern Virginia and contribute to that. And so it all works together, all these levels of entrepreneurship, from your gig economy and your Main Street businesses up to your scalable startups. And so along with that, you have support systems through organizations like ours with the Small Business Development Center here at Longwood, with the Innovation Hub in South Boston. Here locally, we've been working with our local ecosystem with our chamber, our downtown partnership, several very active and energetic entrepreneurs, which is very important to have in your ecosystem to really keep you grounded and keep you focused on what makes a difference in supporting their business. And just connecting, regionally connecting those resources on a regular basis is something that doesn't always happen, but it's critical for an ecosystem for these people and resources to come together on a frequent basis and plan together and identify the gaps, as Lauren said. So I think that is where we're headed with this implementation. It's creating infrastructure of connections across the region that fill the gaps, create connectivity, and fill in with programs that don't necessarily compete with anything that's going on, but can be accessed like a toolbox. So you have a network of people and organizations and resources that function as a whole to support business growth in the region.
Good. Thank you. I think one of the things that there's connecting ecosystem. I think the rainforest analogy is perfect, because it is, you kind of break it apart. But like the Amazon rainforest, which is huge, much larger than Region 3, either one of you, can you give me an idea, a sense of how you're going to connect people? Is this in person? Is this virtual? Is this, podcast or video downloads, YouTube? Give us an idea of how this connection is going to occur across from Patrick County to Mecklenburg, north to Buckingham, Cumberland, and Prince Edward and Amelia. Big area to cover.
I think all of the above. Lauren, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, we're really leaning into the virtual opportunities. So we've all gotten quite accustomed to communicating virtually over the past year, of course, but we see that as a real strategy to help us overcome the challenge of the big geography that we have to cover. With that being said, we understand that there are still barriers to being able to access virtual training. So within each locality, we're working to find a partner host or a partner who's willing to host in-person trainings as well. So people will have the opportunity to go to, whether it's a library or a co-working space or one of the higher education or community college centers, that no matter which locality that you live in, that you'll be able to go find broadband to get to that virtual training. And the other side of that in person is just, we believe that there's real just value and magic in the spontaneous connections that happen much more naturally in person. But even with the virtual, we're looking at different platforms outside of Zoom or Teams that are made more for kind of event and interaction to kind of bridge that gap to find some ways where people can interact more naturally, but still do it online. So we'll also be sharing stories of entrepreneurs, and we haven't committed to a podcast yet, but I do like the idea. Oh,
Big Bang. Here we go. Maybe I was an irritant. I'm gonna stop with the whole Easter thing. And we're moving from a month with R into a month without an R, so it'll be off the menu. I think Sheri touched on some kind of categories of entrepreneurs. There's, the tech startup, software. I mean, think software, hardware, technology, applied technology. There's Main Street, which are typically the businesses you would see on Main Street. There's ones that create goods, one widget, 10 widgets, 1,000, 10,000, scaling it up. There are ones that provide services. think of professional services or a web designer. There's kind of a hybrid. Give us an idea of the type of projects, the type of entrepreneurs that may get launched, that may get started here with the work that you all are doing. Either one. Sheri?
I'll kick it off, I guess. Really, we're concentrating on the infrastructure of the programs to support every level, but we have to start with that connectivity across the region and with the baseline programming to jump off from. We also have our higher ed institutions engaged on a regular basis, Averett, Longwood, and Hampton, Sydney. So what we're hoping is that we can bring the resources of the academics to the resources we're providing for Main Street businesses and look at ways to encourage what we call entrepreneurship, as well as entrepreneurship meaning taking something that is already going on in a business and leveling up, going from stage 1 to stage 2, if you will, from one size of business to the next. So the various things we're looking at, there's intellectual capital that's really hidden, I think, in Region 3 in our education institutions. Here at Longwood, we were just having a discussion today in one of our meetings about a professor who has a patent on a cancer drug that is, that's something that hasn't historically happened at Longwood. And we want to encourage that type of development and innovation, as well as our, Main Street businesses. So, I could see this taking its own flavor based on what intellectual capital we uncover in the educational institutions too.
Which, Sheri, I think you hit something that maybe Lauren can help us. Longwood, Sheri Small Business Development Center, the Office of Economic Development and Community Development is a principal, as I call it. SOVA Innovation Hub, certainly with Mid-Atlantic Broadband support, it's a principal in this project. Lauren, can you give us a sense of who are the other stakeholder partners that you have? I think Sheri hit some institute, Averett and Hampton, Sydney, and Longwood. Give us an idea who else is going to be in this mix as a stakeholder partner with this effort.
Yes. Well, in addition to the four-year institutions, the community colleges have been invited to participate. We have Southside Virginia Community College participating on a regular basis. Patrick Henry Community College over on the western end of our region will be participating in our region-wide events. And they've been running startup and grow programs for several years. So we're happy to have the ability to learn from their experiences as we launch these training programs for the other parts of the region. The Southern Virginia Higher Education Center has, of course, a broader array of programs. And so we're fortunate that a couple of their staff are participating in our planning efforts, as well as we hope to leverage Product Works, which is part of the Higher Ed Center, to help us really hone in on those product development, manufacturing type of businesses. The chambers of commerce across the region, we feel like are a huge asset in getting the word out, not only to find participants for the training programs, but also mentors to help mentor those other folks that are just coming along. So the Main Street organizations, we have K-12 school representatives, GoTech, which is another wonderful Region 3 program, is partnering with us on our youth program development. So we are really just coordinating this wild, broad effort because there's so many partners, and that just goes back to the whole ecosystem approach. We are not trying to control, but just to coordinate this massive collaboration.
I think organic may be a word that comes to mind. With you've identified any number of stakeholder partners that have been identified, that have worked, help with the strategy development, now with the implementation. I certainly am aware, and I know you all's efforts. There will be stakeholders you haven't even met yet, that will then be motivated to join this. And so I think the exciting piece, at least from my kind of outside looking in, is seeing how this organically grows and starts getting this, because you've got a real good critical mass now, but I only see that increasing. Let me shift a little bit. I'm going to go back to Liz because she only got one question. I need to give her some more. Tell me about what is the state doing with entrepreneurship beyond Go Virginia? Is there some other state initiatives out there that are starting to look at entrepreneurship, and why is Virginia now, if they are looking at entrepreneurship from a statewide perspective?
And that's a good question. And before I answer that, I'm going to make just two other comments that I think complement what Sheri and Lauren said very quickly. Number one, other stakeholders that I think will be impacted by this include our existing business community. There are a number of advanced manufacturers in Southern Virginia, in Go Virginia Region 3, who are looking for creative and entrepreneurial ways to improve their business functions and their business cycles. I think that's critically important. The other thing is the places like the Dan River Region ecosystem are a little bit advanced from where the entirety of Region 3 is, but some of the interesting things they do can be cross-shared across the region, which I think is important, and another example of that network that Sheri and Lauren have both referenced. At the state level, for years, there have been conversations and tools to support entrepreneurship. DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development, had the business BCC program and their launch programs. Center for Innovative Technology had some programming for tech-based initiatives. Right now, what you've seen is a coalescing of some of those resources and those partners trying to find a way to support the Go Virginia emphasis on entrepreneurship. And that, I think, is critically important to helping groups and individuals within each region understand where those resources exist. The project that Sheri and Lauren are leading right now has done a marvelous job of connecting externally to other partners at the state level, from whom funding can flow, or programming can flow, content can flow, training can flow. The major emphasis you hear right now, Bryan, is coming out of CIT with its new Regional Innovation Fund that is going to be available to regions like Region 3 who have developed a strategy. So I think that's an important tool that we hope is visibly complementing what's happening in every one of the regions.
Real quick, CIT stands for?
Center for Innovative Technology.
Good, thank you, thank you. All right, I think we're getting down to the last couple of questions. I don't have any surprising questions, but I enjoy this type of question. Sheri and Lauren, if you could transport yourselves to the future in the next 5-10 years, I'm not sure. I'll let you leave it up to you of how far in the future you want to go. And you can't get lottery tickets. That doesn't count. What do you see as maybe the two outcomes that you'd like to see achieved? And they can be the same, that's fine, but the two outcomes from the work that you're starting today. Sheri?
Oh, sure. Well, the first thing is access. Access across the region to resources. I think that's imperative. And then following on that, just the rising tide across the region of jobs, income, the cultural aspects of attracting business here and being a place where a business, the high tech of Silicon Valley, we're attracting them instead of them going to California or other places. We want them here and want to come here. So
good. Thank you. Now, Lauren, you're going to have great ones because I gave you a few minutes to think about the response, right. But Sheri did a good job. So if you time ported, what would you see happening?
Right. Well, Sheri and I were in a metrics meeting together earlier. And so the idea that across the region, per capita income and total jobs is higher is a big one, because that is a measure of innovation, both within new businesses and existing businesses. And I would also add to that then population growth, because if we are successful in becoming this magnetic place to come and have a really high quality of life, because that's ultimately what that wealth is driving. then our population will be growing. And so I hope that that is what we see in the future, is just that more people are seeing what a wonderful place Southern Virginia is to live, work, and play.
Good. I have to, I know Liz will recognize what I'm about to share, is I absolutely think the per capita income, what I actually call household income, is one of the best measures of this kind of work, because whether you're a household of one or many, your job supports that household and then provides the income, the wealth to be able to spend on things that you want to spend, pursue higher education and things. It brings that quality of life, the resources to realize everybody's potential. And so I think you all are offering something to folks that they don't necessarily have to get in a car and drive an hour and a half for, 2 hours to have a well-paying job. You're helping them create their own job that then brings income back to the household to create wealth. So I look forward to seeing those measurements, because it really is something that I think its time has come. And as Liz said, the state resources are now pivoting and coalescing around providing regions such as ours this kind of runway to do this work. All right, I think we're getting close down to the end. The last question out of either one, if I wanted to find more about this strategy or what you all are doing, where would I go?
So we have a whole section of our website dedicated to this. It's sovainnovationhub.com/REI for regional entrepreneurship and innovation. From there, you can find links to our upcoming trainings, as well as to the SBDC calendar. You can log in to Startup Space, which is our digital ecosystem, and find out about the upcoming youth events. So it's kind of your one-stop shop, and it will send you where you need to go.
Good. Any other maybe useful resources, Sheri, that an entrepreneur may want to go find out? What is an entrepreneur? Because I know from your Small Business Development Center work, you deal a lot with people starting up businesses.
Yes, we've tried to build a comprehensive website there, but also linking back to what Lauren said, putting all of this in one place, at least all of the links in the beginning. That's important, so we don't get people lost in various corners. So I would again point them to the SOVA Innovation Hub site as a first stop, and from there go to the resource that they need through this initiative.
Okay. Which I think will conclude it. Only editorial note, this is if you have a broadband connection. I know there are a lot of folks that are working really hard, particularly with Mid-Atlantic Broadband Communities Corporation, to try to see how that may get everybody connected. But meanwhile, I think there's plenty of opportunities to go somewhere if you don't necessarily have it at your house. But the ultimate goal, I know from everybody on this call, as well as a lot of the business leaders in the region, are trying to solve it so everybody's connected and everybody has an affordable connection, because I think that's very important too. So with that, I appreciate you all's time, your wisdom, and your knowledge and expertise, and I go check out the website and talk to these folks. They're going to help you either take an idea to making a job and making a business out of it. And I appreciate y'all's time.